Hi, I'm Pastor Steve Talmage at Love of Christ Lutheran Church in Mesa, Arizona. Along with Pastor Nanette Christofferson, we try to provide a brief look at two of the assigned Bible readings for the upcoming Sunday. We're going to take a look at Sunday, May 10th, 2026. The first reading assigned is Acts 17, 22 to 31. Just a little geography lesson. Here's a map of Paul's three journeys that are recorded in the book of Acts, and then the final journey to Rome, where he is put to death. Let's lead into our lesson, chapter 16. We have Timothy joins Paul and Silas in Lystra. Paul has this vision of the man in Macedonia. He's in Asia Minor. He's thinking, I want to go to Asia. I want to go to my right. And this man appears in his vision. No, you need to go to Macedonia, which is north of Greece. You need to go left. You need to go northwest. And so he goes. And there you have the conversion of Lydia, 11 to 15, who becomes a champion supporter of Paul's and the missionary activity in Greece. And then we have Paul and Silas in prison in Philippi due to the reality of the ecosystem driven by, or economic system driven by, the selling of various trinkets and items that support the temple worship of the various deities assigned to that particular region. And so Paul and Silas are seen as disruptors. They need to be put in jail, and we need to move on. We get to 17. After that earthquake in 16, we have the Philippian jailer becomes a convert because Paul and Silas did not escape, and they offered him a witness of the gospel, and he and his whole household become converts. And then the political forces take favor when they find out that Paul and Silas are Roman citizens, and that carries with them certain civil rights that they then believe they had when they get arrested. So then they get down to Thessalonica. And as typical practice, Paul seeks out where the Jews are worshiping, a synagogue under a tree along the river. But here he goes to the synagogue in Thessalonica. He teaches and explains a suffering Messiah who rises from the dead. And we have conversions of we have conversion of Jewish people. We have God-fearing Greeks, those who are attracted to the monotheism and the rules and rituals of the Jewish faith. And then we have a few of the leading women, and that's kind of almost like a code in the book of Acts and in Luke's writings, the key role that women play in providing critical support to the apostolic mission that the apostles have been sent on. Well, there are always consequences with these conversion and hospitality being offered. Christianity disrupts the status quo, and even Jason, who's head of the synagogue, he's practiced Jewish hospitality to these Jewish Christians. He gets arrested because he's being associated with these disruptors. We get this phrase, verse 6, that Christ's followers are turning the world upside down. And what does that mean? Well, the message of Jesus challenges normal social expectations. And that's hard for us in the 21st century to receive, and particularly those of us in America, and most of us are in middle or upper middle class congregations. We don't want to disrupt the status quo. The status quo works for us. But here in the first century, the message is really causing some disruption. We hear words where the poor are blessed, the last are going to become first, and when you live in a world that's ordered, where people sit in certain classes and those on top definitely seem to be first above all, this message about what Jesus prioritizes and what the gospel proclaims is disruptive. Power is redefined through humility in the cross rather than domination and braggadocio. The calling Jesus Lord had implications in the Roman world, where Caesar claimed ultimate allegiance, and you had plenty of local and national deities that are celebrated and worshipped. So the gospel was seen as destabilizing loyalty and authority structures, and that is, hard to build your civilization if there's disruption going on. This upheaval is actually God setting the world aright. Sin, injustice, and idolatry are what have distorted the world. The gospel doesn't ruin the world, it restores it, though it feels it is disruptive because we are so used to living and understanding the world operating in a different way than God's way. The phrase suggests that the message of Jesus wasn't private or abstract. It had public consequences. New communities are formed, social barriers were crossed, economic and religious systems were questioned. Take a look at the history of Christianity over the last 2,000 years. Take a look at the role of the church in the public square within our own country or in Western civilization. And you see this happening. And you see where faith communities constantly face choices. Do they stand up against injustice and oppressive systems, or do they play the game of being silent and just play along with the status quo so that they have a measure of safety and security? Here in the first century, we see Paul and the others are speaking the gospel, seeking to live out the gospel, and accepting the consequences that come. 10 to 15, Paul and Silas escape to Berea and find a receptive audience of Jews, Greeks, women, and men of high standing. Again, Luke makes that important statement that these are educated people. These are people open to grow and learn, and they're people of means to help underwrite and support the mission. Persecution by Jewish zealots follows them from Thessalonica. And then Paul, for his own safety, is shuttled down to the capital of Greece, Athens. And so he goes off by himself, and he's awaiting others to join him. So now we're in Athens in verse 16. And Athens has been for centuries the center of art, culture, and philosophy. It boasted of a leading university in Paul's day. The Areopagus, a meeting place near the Acropolis where matters of religions and morals are discussed, are seen here. This view is you're looking down onto what's called Mars Hill from the Acropolis, and then Athens further out, but that Athens really surrounds this whole area. But this was the high point in the city of Athens. And so here you have the greatest architecture to support the Greek pantheon of gods and goddesses, and then you have this flat rock area, Mars Hill, where leading philosophers would gather to discuss and figure out truth as they understand it. Again, here's another picture. You have the scaffolding around. I was there this past October, and all that scaffolding was down, so it was glorious to see the Acropolis. And then down in this lower area is Mars Hill again. So there were two leading schools in this time, and Paul references them in our lesson. The Epicureans, and the Epicureans believe in finding joy and pleasure in this life. And so in this image you have, they would abstain from bodily desires, they would live a virtuous life, they practiced moderation in all things, having good solid friendships were important, expanding your mind, growing in your knowledge was a high value, and they would live a temperate life. And so it was this idea of not letting your desires and the temporary things drive you, but look at the things that mean most in your life and affirm those. And they said it's okay to experience joy in this life. It's okay to experience pleasure, but you're going to do everything in moderation. not in extravagance or indulgence. The other school is the Stoics, and Stoics teach that it's important to live quietly, in harmony with life and nature. And in this image, it's a little blurry, but you can see they recognize what you can and cannot control. You determine your reaction to a crisis. Ignore people dominated by their own negative emotions. Master yourself and aim to be virtuous. Learn to move on. Those are kind of key characteristics of Stoicism. So it's to that context, Paul is there on Mars Hill among these philosophers and instructors and leaders in the community, and he speaks to them. He says, "It sounds rather strange to us, so we would like to know what it means. Now all the Athenians and the foreigners living there would spend their time in nothing but telling or hearing something new." So word is out, Paul is lifting up something new. So there is an openness to new ideas. So he has a platform. He has an opportunity. 22 to 31, which is our lesson, this is a global stage for the gospel to be pronounced. And Paul looks for a handle, and he finds a connection in the context where he is. There is an altar to an unknown God. So he takes that altar to an unknown God and uses that as a means to explain who God is through the revelation of Jesus. And he affirms God has created us in God's image and put within us a desire to search for God. He affirms their interest and curiosity regarding their truth. He doesn't insult them. He doesn't shame them. He affirms them. And he affirms then the uniqueness and the authority of Jesus Christ as this unknown God. Then in verse 32, when they heard of the resurrection of the dead, some scoffed, but others said, "We'll hear you again about this." And isn't that the case in all opportunities like this? Some folks just don't want to be open enough. Others want to hold on to what they've always held to be true. It's scary to let go and open yourself up to new ideas or to admit that maybe you were wrong. But there were some here who said, "We'll hear you again about this." So Paul's message of the gospel of who Jesus dying and rising, being this unknown God, speaking to us who are created in God's image, there's an audience building. So I put here, the work of an apostle will always involve grit, resilience, persistence, and patience. It's not a quick race here. And as we read the journeys of Paul and the other apostles, but particularly in the book of Acts, we see Paul, multiple journeys, constantly saying the same thing over, maybe in a little different way in the context in which he finds himself. But it appears there's more often than not an audience who are open to hear the good news. And we have to believe that, even in our own circles, where it seems like, oh, they'll never change, they don't care, they don't do this or that. We all have been called to be a witness. And so through our own grit, resilience, persistence, and patience, may the Holy Spirit fill us with the power to be a witness to Jesus and the good news Jesus brings to Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, to the ends of the earth. Thanks for watching this. God bless.